that. He didn't throw you around.
Amen.
So you knew your dad wasn't physically abusing you. So Rick Chavez told you your dad was mentally abusing you. Isn't that right?
Yes, ma'am.
And he said the mental abuse was when your dad would stare at you.
Yes, ma'am. Sometimes he'd stare at me for a long period of time, I guess. And he'd say stuff like he shouldn't do that, and like it was mental abuse and stuff.
And didn't he tell you that your dad was playing mind games with you?
Yes, ma'am.
Did he tell you what those mind games were?
Not really. No.
Didn't he tell you that you could be really strong and that mental abuse wouldn't get to you anymore?
Yes, ma'am.
And did you believe you were able to do that?
Yes, ma'am.
And didn't Rick tell you that he cared about you maybe more than anybody else in the world cared about you?
Yes, ma'am.
There was a time back last November when you and Derek ran away. Remember that?
Yes, ma'am.
And the plan was that you were going to run away and stay with Rick Chavez until you were at least 16. Do you remember that?
Yes, ma'am.
And Rick told you he was going to try to get custody of you and Derek. Isn't that right?
Yes, ma'am.
And he gave you money so that you would have money when you decided it was time to run away?
Yes, ma'am.
And he gave you a key to his house so you'd be able to get in when you ran away?
Yes, ma'am.
And he made the statement to you that you would have a place to stay if it became necessary to kill your dad?
Yes, ma'am.
And you didn't start calling your dad by his first name, Terry, until after Rick had started telling you that your dad was abusing you and that he wasn't really your dad. Is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
And you slept in Rick Chavez's bedroom during the period when you had run away?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you remember when was the first time that Rick Chavez kissed you?
Yes, ma'am.
When was that? Do you remember? Was that before Derek came back?
Yes, ma'am.
But before he kissed you, had he told you some other things like it's normal for men and boys to kiss?
Yes, ma'am. He said that it was a normal thing. And he told me about the other relationships he had had.
He said he had had relationships with some other boys?
Yes, ma'am.
And he told you everybody wants to try this, so there's nothing wrong with it?
Well, he said that it was a natural curiosity, but not necessarily everybody, but he said that it was a natural curiosity, and like
Said it was a natural curiosity.
Yes, ma'am.
And all this time, while he was telling you these things, he would tell you he loved you.
Yes, ma'am.
And you believed that you would be able to stay with Rick Chavez if your dad was dead?
Yes, ma'am.
Because Rick told you you'd be able to stay with him if your dad was dead?
Yes, ma'am.
You didn't know anything about legal custody or guardianship or anything like that?
Not really.
And you didn't know that your family might have to get involved in where you went if your dad was dead?
No, ma'am.
And when Rick Chavez gave you a key to his house, that was immediately after your dad had said you wouldn't be seeing Mr. Chavez anymore, isn't that right?
No, ma'am. It was on the same day, but not immediately after.
It was on the same day.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. But you didn't really believe that you would never see Mr. Chavez again, did you?
Well, I didn't believe that he would, but so that's why I ran away, because I thought I would never see him again.
Okay. But even after your dad told you that you would never see Ricky Chavez again, Ricky Chavez pulled you aside later on that day and he gave you a key. And he said, "I'm here for you if you ever need me." Isn't that right?
Yes, ma'am. It's on the that effect.
And when you had been with Ricky Chavez on Sunday afternoon on November 25th, that was the day you went back to your dad. Do you remember that?
Yes, ma'am.
And you and Mr. Chavez went to the McDonald's.
Yes, ma'am.
And he told you, "Be home at midnight tonight. I'll be over to get you."
Yes, ma'am.
Did he say that to you?
Yes, ma'am.
He said, "Leave the door unlocked so I can get in the house."
Yes, and he said leave the back door unlocked.
And isn't it true you believed that you were just going to run away and go back over to Rick Chavez's again to stay?
Yes, ma'am.
And then that night, Rick came in and he woke Derek up. Is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
Derek hadn't been asleep very long at that time, had he?
No, ma'am, not very long.
And then y'all left the house. He told you to be very quiet, and then you went out to Rick
Yes, ma'am.
Chavez's car.
Yes, ma'am.
And then at some point later, Rick Chavez came and got in the car, and you knew the car was moving.
Yes, ma'am.
And when you got back to Mr. Chavez's house, he told you that there was a terrible fight?
He said that there had been a fight.
Okay. He said he had to kill your dad?
Yes, ma'am. He said he'd done it to protect us.
Did he say what he was protecting you from?
He said that my dad would have killed us before he would have let us go, let us stay with Rick.
And he told you that he had set your house on fire?
Yes, ma'am.
Did he tell you that the fire would destroy the evidence?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you remember if those are the words he used, destroy the evidence?
I don't know the exact words.
And
13-year-old
Rick
Alex King
Travis
testifying
then
on his
told
own
you
behalf at the trial. The trial, he and his older brother, Derek King, 14 years old, both accused of murdering their father, then burning the house. The 40-year-old friend of the family, Ricky Chavez, already tried separately in connection with the murder. The two brothers originally confessed to the murder, later recanted. We're going to continue to monitor this trial, have more information as it becomes available. A very shocking trial unfolding right now in Pensacola, Florida. I'm Wolf Blitzer in New York. Lou Dobbs' Moneyline begins right now.
Tonight, President Bush began to set forth the case to overthrow Saddam Hussein. President Bush says the Iraqi leader must not be allowed to threaten the world by developing weapons of mass destruction. Tonight, we begin our coverage with Kelly Wallace at the White House.
Lou, the president today said he would seek congressional approval before taking any action against Iraq, and he promised an open dialogue with the American people.
Some key members of Congress say the president made a compelling case for Iraq's regime change in Iraq, but other members saying they need to hear more.
A late-day rally lifted the Dow to a triple-digit gain, but that recovered just a third of yesterday's sell-off.
And wireless stocks help lift the NASDAQ as it recovers half of yesterday's loss.
Also tonight, radical Islamists murdered almost 3,000 innocent Americans in the attacks of September 11th. And the most powerful education group in this country suggests children not be told who was responsible. Tonight, John Leo, columnist of U.S. News and World Report, is my guest.
This is Lou Dobbs' Moneyline for Wednesday, September 4th. Here now, Lou Dobbs.
Good evening. Today, President Bush began to make the case to overthrow the government of Saddam Hussein. President Bush met with congressional leaders at the White House. The president also sent a letter to both houses of Congress stating his reasons to remove Saddam Hussein from power. Next week, the president will make his case at the United Nations General Assembly. White House correspondent Kelly Wallace has the story. Kelly?
Lou, President Bush was facing a growing chorus of criticism from U.S. lawmakers and U.S. allies. So today he began a full-scale offensive. First, he invited Republican and Democratic congressional leaders to the White House. He told them he would be seeking a congressional resolution backing the possible use of military force against Iraq. The president wants a vote in both houses before lawmakers leave for the November elections. Now, age stressed, the president has not decided that military action is necessary, but the president made clear today doing nothing is not an option when it comes to Saddam Hussein.
Saddam Hussein is a serious threat. He is a significant problem. And it's something that this country must deal with. And today the process starts.
And part of the administration's PR offensive, administration officials will be testifying before congressional committees over the next several weeks. The president also consulting with U.S. allies. In fact, he meets on Saturday with British Prime Minister Tony Blair. And also the president expected to deliver what U.S. officials are calling a major address before the United Nations on September 12th. In that speech, the president says he'll tell the international community that Saddam Hussein is, quote, stiffing the world and not abiding by UN agreements not to develop weapons of mass destruction. Now, on top of all this, Aides say that the president has not ruled out diplomatic options, such as seeking a UN inspections regime backed by military force. But, Lou, the sense of some of the president's top advisors is that down the road, Saddam Hussein either won't let inspectors back in or won't let them see what he's got. Lou?
Kelly Wallace at the White House. Thank you. After today's meeting, some congressional leaders, such as Senator John McCain, said they now believe the president made the case for a regime change in Iraq. Other lawmakers say they still need more. Kate Snow is on Capitol Hill and has the story. Kate?
Lou, as one member said to me after the meeting, the more people you ask who were in that meeting, the more interpretations you're going to get. But all seem to agree this was not a nitty-gritty detail kind of session. The president wasn't laying out the details of his case, but rather broad brush strokes, beginning what is going to be weeks-long consultations with this Congress. House Majority Whip Tom DeLay saying that afterwards that the president does not necessarily need to come to Congress for authorization. In Mr. DeLay's view, he doesn't need a resolution in order to take action against Iraq, but he said he thinks he will get overwhelming support once a resolution lands here on Capitol Hill. DeLay says the administration has a strong case and no other option but to force Iraqi change in the Iraqi regime.
Well, I think military action is inevitable. Faced with Saddam Hussein, 11 years of history of his thumbing his nose at the world and at UN resolutions and agreements that he has made, plus his participation in terrorism around the world. Going back and begging him to be nice again just isn't going to work.
Senate Majority Leader Tom Daschle said he was encouraged that the White House and the president are now consulting with Congress and the beginning of this process, sending up administration officials for further debate and hearings here on Capitol Hill. But he did say that he feels they need to do more in terms of providing evidence of why Iraq is such a threat.
There has to be a better case made. The president began making that case today. He acknowledged that this is just the beginning of a dialogue. But certainly we have to better understand the threat. We have to better understand the change in circumstances. We have to better understand what this will entail and what the ramifications are for the United States and, frankly, for the international community.
Now, there was some frustration this afternoon. Secretary of Defense Donald Rumsfeld came here for more than 2 hours to brief senators behind closed doors in a private session. It was expected that perhaps he would offer some of that sort of proof that members of Congress are looking for in terms of why the administration thinks that Saddam Hussein has weapons of mass destruction. Mr. Rumsfeld afterwards said, though, this was a meeting that was planned for many weeks, and he simply wasn't here to do that sort of offering of proof. One White House official, Lou, says that this wasn't the setting for that. There were too many people in the room, and that will happen, though, as we move forward here with congressional hearings. This White House official saying expect to see more officials come up here, both in classified and non-classified briefings, to offer more of the administration's case. Lou.
Kate, thank you very much. Kate Snow from Capitol Hill. Opinion polls now suggest a majority of Americans supports U.S. military action to overthrow the government of Saddam Hussein. But those surveys also show support declining dramatically should the United States act alone without allies. We asked CNN political analyst Bill Snyder to join us and to give us more thought-provoking analysis on these polls. Bill, what do they suggest to you?
They suggest that war anxiety has been growing, and it's been growing for the past month as there's been more and more debate and discussion about the United States going into Iraq. As you say, a majority still supports sending ground troops to overthrow Saddam Hussein, but opposition is now creeping up over 40%. When Congress went on recess in August, they went back to their constituents and their contributors, of course, and they got an earful, which is why they came back to Washington this week, and they were saying publicly, just as Tom Daschle said on that bit of tape we heard, we want the president to make the case. The American people have not heard him make the case. What's interesting is the president today at the White House said, we start today, as if the debate for the past month has been irrelevant. He's saying today we're going to start making this case and hopes he'll turn those polls around.
Those polls, one, of course, doesn't know how much influence they have with the White House, but it is interesting to note the Secretary of State, Colin Powell, and basically said that that there is disagreement amongst members of the administration, confirming that publicly, but saying that all along the president simply has not made a decision. This suggests that the president has now made a decision. What do you expect to see from the arrayed differences of view represented in the administration?
Oh, I think the president is going to have to come out with a policy, and there's a deadline, in fact, next Thursday. He said several times today, next Thursday, the day after September 11th, he's going to give a very important speech to the United Nations General Assembly. Now, that's important because the United Nations has a crucial role in legitimizing whatever action the United States takes. This president, unlike his father, has not said he would ask for a United Nations resolution. Of course, when Saddam Hussein invaded Kuwait in 1990, his father went directly to the UN. There was a clear provocation, and the UN acted long before Congress said anything. This president hasn't said he's going to ask for UN support or permission, but that's crucial because the polls also show that Americans and Europeans alike both say that they would support action against Iraq if and only if the UN authorizes it. So when the president speaks to the UN next week, I think he's going to lay his cards on the table.
In 1990, as you recall, in 1991, in the Persian Gulf War, in point of fact, the president, then President Bush, secured United Nations approval for action, if you will, with far greater ease than he secured approval from the U.S. Congress. Do you expect the pattern to be the same this time, should that be the result?
Yeah. In this case, I think he will have more trouble with the United Nations because there are several countries that are very skeptical about the only country in the world that seems even remotely supportive or enthusiastic is Britain. And Tony Blair is coming this weekend, and even he is having trouble within his own party and within his own cabinet. Other countries are being very skeptical, so the United Nations is going to be tough. Congress should be easier. Look, we're going into an election year. Democrats know what happened to them after 1991 when there was a very close race to authorize, a vote rather, to authorize the Persian Gulf War, and a lot of Democrats were embarrassed by their opposition. Now I think Congress, going before the voters in November, are going to be very reluctant to oppose President Bush on a vote like this.
Bill Snyder, thank you.
Sure.
Police in Washington today arrested a man who possessed 10 rifles and 6 handguns. They were in his car. The man was stopped after a report that a man with explosives was heading to the White House from Pennsylvania. The driver of the car is being held on firearms charges. A woman in the car has been detained as well. One report suggests the man had made comments about wanting to get things straightened out in Washington. There is a new twist in the West Nile virus outbreak tonight. Federal health officials now say at least 3 of the 4 people who received transplants from a car crash victim in Georgia were infected with West Nile virus. One of those recipients later died. Now officials at the Centers for Disease Control are trying to determine how the victim was infected. Efforts are underway to trace 60 people who donated blood that was used in transfusions as doctors tried to save the life of the crash victim. These are the first known cases in which humans contracted the disease through something other than a mosquito bite. 32 people have now died of West Nile virus this year. Almost 700 people have been infected. Well, turning to Wall Street, a late-day rally lifted the Dow, a triple-digit gain. Stocks moved higher in the final hour of trading following yesterday's brutal sell-off. The Dow Jones Industrials today up 117 points, recovering about a third of yesterday's losses. The Nasdaq gained 28, and the S&P 500 up 15 points. We'll have complete coverage of the market later here. Secretary of State Colin Powell faced jeers and boos from protesters in South Africa today at the Earth Summit. It happened as he talked to the United Nations Conference on Sustainable Development. Powell and the Japanese foreign minister announced a series of initiatives to encourage private investment and to help development programs. But the Secretary of State was interrupted by protests against the Bush administration's policies on trade and the environment and poverty. At least 12 people were removed from the room by security guards. Israel expelled the relatives of 2 suspected Palestinian terrorists today. The brother and sister of a suspected terrorist were blindfolded and then driven to a settlement in Gaza. Yesterday, Israel's Supreme Court approved the expulsion of the attackers' relatives, providing they pose a threat to Israel's security. Today, they were expelled. President Bush today stepped up the political and diplomatic campaign for tough action against Iraq. There are also more signs the United States is quietly building up its military forces in the Gulf. Shipping sources say the U.S. Navy has booked another large ship to transport tanks and heavy armor to the region. The Pentagon, however, is downplaying those reports. But the Wall Street Journal says the United States Army has already moved enough equipment from Qatar and Europe to equip a 25,000 soldier force in Kuwait. About 8,000 U.S. troops are currently in Kuwait near the border with Iraq. Additional soldiers could be flown in from the United States and Europe at short notice. Joining me now, our regular commentator on military affairs, General David Grange. General, first of all, how much credence do you give to these reports? The Pentagon initially pushing them away, but now not seemingly denying them.
Well, two ways to look at it, Lou. Exercises are conducted periodically throughout the Middle East, Jordan, Kuwait, other Middle East countries. It's a matter of engagement, a matter of preparedness in that type of environment. But there's also preposition stuff always moved around the world in potential conflict areas, so it'll speed up a war if that's the decision's made. Well, so I would imagine there's a lot there.
You have long experience. Give us your best assessment based on what you are seeing now. Does this look to you to be the onset of significant preparations for a possible military action against Iraq?
There's a good chance. The military always has to be prepared to move in, and I would say that these are early preparations for war in Iraq.
In your judgment, which units would you expect to be forward deployed in preparation for such an action?
For maximum flexibility, the military doctrine right now calls for heavy, light, and special operations mixed for the different type of objectives they would take down in, let's say, a country like Iraq. So you're talking about heavy armored units, you're talking about special operation forces to work with indigenous personnel, you're talking about light forces to work in urban areas. I would say there's a mix.
For example, units such as the 24th Mechanized Infantry, the 1st Infantry Division, the Big Red One, those divisions, would you expect to be brought up initially?
Lou, you're dating yourself. The 24th Division, so you experienced in the First War, now called the 3rd Infantry Division. But
Thank
yes,
you for updating me. That's why you're here, General.
Right. There's only we only speak from your experiences, but there's only 10 divisions in the Army right now. It's not a big Army, and there's 3 Marine divisions. So I would say you're going to have units like the 3rd Infantry Division, the Rock of the Marne. You're going to have the 1st Infantry Division, the 1st Armored. You're going to have some units that have some punch and muscle to disarm some bad adversaries.
General, we appreciate it very much, and as always, I appreciate you educating me and keeping me up to date. Sometimes that's a full-time task. General David
It's all
Grange,
teamwork.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Coming up next year, America's most powerful education group says teachers should avoid blaming any group for the September 11th terrorist attacks. U.S. News World Report's John Lee will be here to tell us why the NEA is deserving of some severe criticism. And 2 wildfires near Los Angeles burned down dozens of homes, threatened power supplies. We'll have the latest for you on that spreading fire and a great deal more. We'll be back in just about a minute.
Introducing the all-new E-Class. You may never want to leave it.
Okay, Mr. and Mrs. Smith, that's our loan package. Any questions?
Applying for a second mortgage to consolidate bills doesn't have to be difficult or time-consuming.
Excuse us.
Just log on or call ditech.com and apply for a second mortgage with a no closing cost option. It's fast and easy.
Oh, lost another loan to Ditech.
Apply online or call us now at 1-800-71-FIXED.
How far will a small business go to reach new customers? All the way to cyberspace. Because small business is about working in new ways, we created a new way for them. Open, the Small Business Network. New tools, services and savings, for a small business economy. From American Express.
Everybody wants to retire, but who can predict the market?
It's scary.
What if Social Security isn't enough?
Oh, you're kidding, right?
What if interest rates fall?
It's so complicated.
Retirement raises a lot of questions.
Where am I going to get that kind of money?
How much?
How much?
I am not ready for this. That's a lot of money.
Woo.
Now GE Financial has a way to help. It's a simple new way to provide for your retirement called GE Retirement Answer, a variable annuity. Call your financial representative or 1-800-THINK-GE and say you want an answer. The GE Retirement Answer.
This portion of Moneyline is brought to you by GE Financial. Look for GE Financial's retirement sweepstakes at money.com/retirement. This is CNN.
Juries are setting punitive damage awards that are wildly out of proportion to actual damages. Yesterday, we reported to you about a car crash involving less than $1,000 in damages, but which led to a $145 million damages award against State Farm Insurance. Tonight, we can tell you about an even more astonishing case. Tim O'Brien has the details. Tim?
Lou, this case is extraordinary for at least two reasons. One, it involves the largest punitive damage award ever affirmed by an American court in a personal injury case, $290 million. And two, it was affirmed on appeal, even though the trial court found that the jury deliberations were, quote, infested with passion and prejudice. The case involves the controversial 1978 Ford Bronco. 3 people were killed in a rollover accident in California in 1993. The Bronco's roof, made mostly of fiberglass, collapsed. In a sworn statement, however, Sandra Bishop, the jury forewoman, says there was gross misconduct in the jury room. Bishop said one juror described incorrectly how Lee Iacocca, Ford's former president, had claimed in a TV show it was cheaper for Ford to settle cases than to fix safety problems. The statement, however, was made by a plaintiff's lawyer, not by Iacocca. Another juror told the jury about her recurring nightmares in which her children died in a Bronco rollover while Ford lawyers holding guns stood by and chanted, "Where's the proof? Where's the proof?" According to 4 jurors, she considered the dream an omen and urged other jurors not to follow the law because, quote, saving babies was more important. Now, the attorney representing Ford Motor says this case shows that while jurors must decide who's right in a civil case, it should be left to others, perhaps judges or regulatory agencies, to assess punitive damages.
It would be a step in the right direction if judges who generally see more cases, understand the range of punishments that might be appropriate, were the ones to impose the punishment based in the facts that they see in the particular case, particularly if the legislatures establish some range of punishments in advance.
Boutros is one of the country's leading opponents of punitive damages. He's going to ask the California Supreme Court to review this case.
What do you judge the odds to be?
I think pretty good. It is quite an extraordinary case, and if nothing else, it's going to fuel the debate over punitive damages. A lot of good comes out of it, but in many cases, the wheels seem to be coming off the wagon. Questions arise, why should the plaintiffs get all the money? Perhaps it should go into a fund. Some states have.
Or plaintiffs' attorneys more often than not.
It can be a windfall for plaintiffs' lawyers.
Tim, thank you very much. Tim O'Brien, good to have you here.
Thank you.
Well, the September 11th attacks were carried out by Osama bin Laden's al-Qaeda terrorist network. You might think that's pretty obvious, but wait just a minute. The National Education Association, this country's most powerful education group, has a somewhat different perspective. And U.S. News and World Report columnist John Leo says the NEA wants teachers not to suggest that any group is responsible for those attacks. In fact, the NEA says its material has been taken out of context. It says using this national tragedy to attempt to score political points is what it terms a new low. I am delighted to say that U.S. News and World Report columnist John Leo is here with us. He is one of the handful of columnists in this country. I think it's a mandatory read with each column. Good to have you here.
Thanks for having me.
A stunning column that the NEA does not want to have teachers in their lesson plans for September 11th say who was responsible.
It's a very peculiar decision. Tens of thousands of words, and they never got around to saying who committed this act. It's very much like the language games that some people played after the attack, talking about the tragedy and the events rather than the terrorist attack. It's a kind of diffidence, an attempt to not judge, to not hurt anyone's feelings, so they shrink back from saying the obvious.
The NEA says that it points out that the reference is not exactly to its site. It's simply referencing helpful material to the lesson plans. What's your reaction?
Well, that's technically right. It isn't directly on their site, but it's under their tips for teachers and principals page. So it's something that they are presenting under their auspices. They're playing a little game now.
Well, John, I was so inspired by your column that I went through the NEA lesson plans for September 11th, and I have to tell you, I was dismayed. First, the material is so turgid that I think one should have a PhD or an extraordinary attention span. Certainly,
it is all over the place. It's sprawling and incoherent. I pointed out a couple of Marxist rainy day camp games that they played, where you pretend that you are more powerful in a different class, and then everyone gets together and discusses whether it's better to be rich or poor. This is not what schools should be doing about September 11th.
What should they be doing in your judgment?
I think you have to talk about how our freedoms developed, the history of America, why we are such a free people, why we are successful people, and why people hate us so much. You have to underline that there are moral absolutes, that we are not to blame. That's always hanging in the background, that somehow America invited this somehow, as if you got punched by a stranger on the street. It's somehow your fault for making more money or being more successful. And I think that's the aura of the NEA's philosophy.
And you're straightforward in your criticism of the NEA for not wanting to name who is responsible, and that is, as you know, in this broadcast, we do not refer to the war against terror, we refer to the war against radical Islamists, right, because that is the group of people against whom the United States is fighting around the world and other civilized nations. What do you think of that viewpoint?
Well, I think NEA revealed that it was willing to name the Islamicists the next day on TV as part of its damage control. But it's the philosophy you have to worry about. Not all teachers and all schools buy this. But the NEA and the schools of education are very, very reluctant to talk about what's good about America. They don't believe in authority teaching. They think that education is something that bubbles up out of students' activities, so they're reluctant to impose any view, and they're reluctant to root for the United States. So all these qualms come together in this site, and it makes a very inferior lesson plan for September 11th. These kids will never know how America developed and what we're fighting for.
And of course, one of the best things about this country is public education. One of the best things about this country are the teachers who work so hard to educate our young people. Why is there this reluctance, seemingly, on the part of the NEA to say, not only here is the Constitution, here is the Bill of Rights, but to impart real information, real knowledge about, as you suggest, our values here?
Well, I think there's a culture within the education world. Not all schools and all teachers are part of it. But the schools of education have a very firm philosophy that feelings are more important than achievement, that equality must be stressed over excellence, and all of these attitudes sort of leak out when there's a crisis. And one of them that leaked out here is that feelings and mandatory niceness are more important than telling the truth.
John Leo, great to have you here. Thank you. Coming up next, two former WorldCom officials have entered pleas to charges they helped hide billions of dollars of expenses at the telecom firm. We'll have a report for you. Stock prices rose today. And former Treasury Secretary Nicholas Brady will be here to tell us his views about this recent sell-off and how it compares with the '87 stock market crash, what you and I should be thinking about in this troubled economy. All of that, a great deal more, is still ahead. Please stay with us.
Consider this. New Shell gasoline is specially formulated to help prevent deposits in your engine. And a clean engine performs better. Is it any wonder, then, why so many drivers choose Shell?
Introducing the all-new E-Class. You may never want to leave it.
America Decides, and CNN is there with the latest news straight from the campaign trail. For complete coverage from the most experienced team of reporters and analysts anywhere, stay up to the minute. Stay with CNN as America decides.
Everybody wants to retire, but who can predict the market?
It's scary.
What if Social Security isn't enough?
Oh, you're kidding, right?
What if interest rates fall?
It's so complicated.
Retirement raises a lot of questions.
Where am I going to get that kind of money? How much? How much? I am not ready for this. That's a lot of money.
Now GE Financial has a way to help. It's a simple new way to provide for your retirement called GE Retirement Answer, a variable annuity. Call your financial representative or 1-800-THINK-GE and say you want an answer. The GE Retirement Answer.
Well, two former WorldCom executives today pleaded not guilty in federal court in New York City. Former Chief Financial Officer Scott Sullivan and his former colleague Buford Yates pleaded not guilty to charges they helped inflate WorldCom's earnings by $4 billion. Both men named in the 7-count indictment last week. Prosecutors say to expect additional charges in this case. Scott Sullivan and Buford Yates have already been added to our Enron Corporate America criminal scoreboard. The former WorldCom executives are two of the now 19 executives who have been hit with criminal charges. The number at Enron remains at 1 tonight. The one changed number of days since Enron's collapse, now 276. A late session rally lifted the Dow Jones Industrials higher for the first time in 6 sessions. $175 billion of market value created today. Trading action today, again, relatively light volume. The Dow up 117 points. The NASDAQ up 28 points. The S&P 500 rose 15 points. Christine Romans at the big board. Greg Clarkin at the NASDAQ. Christine.
Lou, an afternoon rally erased a third of yesterday's Dow loss thanks to financial and computer chip stocks. Strong auto sales and home builder earnings helping as well. Citigroup recovered slightly today. Texas Instruments was active, up 4%, but Cigna fell 3% on news it'll take a larger than expected charge to exit a business line. Philip Morris was one of the 5 Dow stocks to close lower. Philip Morris says its premium cigarettes are facing stiff competition. And Hershey tumbled. A judge blocking the sale of Hershey. The trust that controls Hershey, though, says it will appeal that injunction. Big board volume, 1.3 billion shares. Now to the NASDAQ and Greg.
And Christine, the #1 topic of talk continues to be Intel. Now the company will update Wall Street as to its business conditions tomorrow after the close. Today it found itself again the subject of a number of negative research notes. Now with the broader rally, it was actually able to gain about 1.5% after yesterday's sharp sell-off. Now other chip-related stocks were not as lucky. Chip equipment company Applied Materials was down 29 cents on a day. But software stocks were among the biggest winners. Take a look at shares of Oracle and Microsoft, both gaining nicely. Northwest Airlines gained 3% on word of job cuts and a reduced flight schedule. Once again, the NASDAQ composite gains, but still shy of the 1,300 mark. Lou, back to you.
Greg, thank you. Nicholas Brady headed the commission that examined the stock market crash of 1987. In only 4 trading days, the Dow Jones Industrials tumbled more than 30%. Brady concluded that the result of a structural system problem. Brady says the current downturn very different from that disaster 15 years ago. This one, he says, caused by vastly overblown valuations. Former Treasury Secretary Nicholas Brady joins me now. Good to have you here.
Evening, Lou.
This has been a disaster from the fall off from March of 2001. Give us your best judgment as to the difference between now and the crash of 87.
Well, pretty much what you said, Lou. The crash of 87 was mechanical, structural, so you could come up with mechanical and structural things to correct the crash. We did that, put in circuit breakers so the volume could flow through the system. This is completely different now. As you said, the present crash is due to vastly overblown valuations and created excesses which are going to take time to work off.
Your experience, your judgment over the years, what does it tell you about where we're headed from here? Investors shell-shocked through this. As you point out, the circuit breakers and all of the structural reforms that followed the crash of 87 seemingly just made this a more slower and more painful process and a deeper chasm from which to climb out of. When do we get out of it? How do we get out of it?
Well, this present crisis, Lou, is, you know, there were excesses created in the 90s in debt, capacity, and consumption. We have to work through those excesses. There's no textbook about backing out of a bubble. That's the problem. In 87, we had mechanical things that could be done and was over with pretty quickly. This is going to take time. The excesses were big, they were huge, and they're going to take time till we work through them.
What's your best counsel to investors here?
Well, I think you have to be careful at this particular point in time. You always make money betting against the end of the world. Anybody who bet against the United States in the last 50 years is a loser. So in the long run, you have to be in this market. But right now, we have excesses which simply have to be worked through. And until we get through them, and it's going to take some time, well, I'd be a little careful.
And I'm not going to let you out of here, out of this studio, without asking you how soon before you see a market that improves to the point you could call it a bull market?
Well, Lou, I can't, I think the ratios that people rely on, and it's easy, I think now, to say we were in a bubble, price-earnings ratios were too high, et cetera, et cetera. They've come down, but I think they've got a little further to go. I'm a little bearish still. I hate to say it, but you can't be too long out of the U.S. market. It's the place to be in the long run.
Nick Brady, as always, good to have you here.
Thanks, Lou.
Thanks. Coming up next, in what has been a very busy wildfire season throughout the country and in California, 2 new fires there are burning out of control tonight. We'll have the latest for you on that, a great deal more still ahead. Stay with us.
Financial freedom. It has its advantages.
Better pack a sweater.
Jefferson Pilot Financial. Investments, insurance.
Your generous support has made it possible for United Way to help build strong communities across America. Thank you. Now more than ever, it is crucial that we maintain the strength and vitality of our neighborhoods, towns, and cities. United Way is active in local communities 365 days a year, making a measurable difference in the lives of Americans. Strong communities mean a stronger America. Please continue to support your local United Way.
California firefighters are fighting a fire that is out of control tonight, actually 2 of them. 2 forest fires are burning north of Los Angeles in the Angeles National Forest. One of those fires has now burned more than 4,000 acres. It has also destroyed at least 5 homes, several other buildings. More than 150 people have had to be evacuated. Volunteers have been called in to rescue dozens of animals and livestock. Less than 40 miles away, a nearly 16,000-acre fire in the San Gabriel Mountains has destroyed more than 70 buildings, most of them campground structures. That fire has also shut down a main power line. The state's power grid managers are closely watching another tonight. Both fires remain out of control. A suspicious fire has destroyed a historic landmark, the covered bridge made famous in the movie The Bridges of Madison County, gutted by a fire during the night. Iowa investigators say the fire may have been deliberately set. The Cedar Bridge dates back to 1883. It was only one of the country's remaining 6 covered bridges still open to traffic. Storm warnings are in effect tonight along 200 miles of the Florida and Georgia coast. Tropical storm Edward is sitting just off that coast, packing heavy rain and strong winds. Residents all along the coast are preparing for Edward's arrival. It's expected tomorrow morning. Rain has begun to fall now in parts of Florida. Winds there have strengthened. Weather officials no longer expect Edward to weaken before it comes ashore. In Spain, they throw tomatoes at one another. At times, in El Salvador, they throw fire. Take a look at this video. These men are throwing live fireballs at one another. It is an annual event, believe it or not. This town's residents split into 2 groups. Then they play dodgeball with fire. The firefight is part of 2 local traditions, one of which is to honor a local patron saint, Geronimo, who is said to have been provoked by satanic fire. And believe it or not, in all the years they've been doing this, no one has been seriously injured in the firefight. Believe it or not. Well, still ahead here, we'll hear your thoughts on sin taxes, sinful jury awards, and the sinful behavior of some corporate executives. All of that and more when we continue. Stay with us.
Behind the headlines are real people with extraordinary stories. One journalist takes you there. Connie Chung, weeknights 8 Eastern only on CNN.
We want your child's education to soar with a chance for you to win a $26,000 scholarship. Enter Disney Channel's Playhouse Disney A to Z sweepstakes, and you could win $26,000 for all 26 letters in the alphabet just for your child. One local winner will also receive a $2,600 scholarship. Enter Disney Channel's Playhouse Disney A to Z sweepstakes and let the learning begin. Here's how.
Go to your neighborhood high school pharmacy today and enter to win a $2,600 scholarship for your child, grandchild, niece, or nephew.
So if I use you, can you get me discounts on hotels, attractions, not even shopping? Next! Very nice, but do you come with a full-service travel agency? Didn't think so. No roadside assistance. Bye-bye. So, AAA guy, you do all that, plus car and homeowner's insurance? Wow. What else? Oh, a star is born. AAA, join now and avoid the crowds, because membership means more.
AT&T Broadband.
Technology. Find out how you can appear live on Tech TV's Netcam network.
This is Patrick Johnson.
We'll show you how you can use a Netcam and a broadband connection to send video mail and talk live with the host of Tech TV.
Find out how you can get on the Netcam network. AT&T Digital Cable is your connection to Tech TV.
Serving the Tualatin Valley, we're AT&T Broadband.
America is shaping up with Fitness Made Simple's best-selling workout and nutrition videos, hosted by fitness celebrity John Bastow.
These videos don't offer starvation diets, miracle pills, or magical fat loss belts. Those things never work for me or anyone else I know. What does work are the muscle-building workouts and fat-burning nutrition plans shown on these tapes.
Order our National Shape Up special today and get the original Fitness Made Simple workout and nutrition video, plus six-pack abs. That's 2 videos for the price of 1. Call now.
This is CNN. This is CNN.
Crossfire coming right up. Let's go to James Carville and Tucker Carlson in Washington. James, tell us all about it.
Well, Lou, we got another big one tonight. We'll be talking about Iraq and what the president said today in the Secretary of Defense's briefing. We got Senator Kit Bond, a Republican senator from Missouri, and Senator Bill Nelson of Florida. So it ought to be a very interesting part on something that I'm sure that a lot of investors and financial people will be watching very closely, too, as this thing progresses.
And then, if you listen to James Carville, President Clinton was the best president in history, and yet virtually everyone from the Clinton administration who's run for office has lost badly so far, with the exception of Rahm Emanuel, who'll join us tonight to discuss the Clinton kiss of death. And finally, Lou, how low can television go? We have an answer. It's called American Idol. The winner of the talent show will sing on September 11th at the Lincoln Memorial. How appalling is that? We'll answer that question, too, and many others.
I've just got to ask how you selected amongst a wide number of choices of American Idol.
You know, Lou, we don't make the news, we just report it here on Crossfire.
I understand.
The real American Idol is you.
That's right, Lou.
That's it.
Bless your heart.
American
Bless
Idol.
your heart, James. Gentlemen, thank you. We look forward to it as always. Coming up next, your thoughts and in their words. Stay with us.
Closed captioning for selected programs provided by the Invention Submission Corporation.
Inventors, Invention Submission Corporation can help you try to patent your idea and submit it to companies.
Call 1-888-778-IDEA for free information.
Tired of playing the mortgage rate game? You know, when you hear one of those ads that promise you the moon and you call up only to find out that the points are too high and there are hidden fees attached? Well, at ditech.com, there are no games. Right now, we're offering a second mortgage with a no closing cost option. You can be pre-qualified over the telephone or online. Use the money to pay off credit cards or for home improvements, whatever you want. Do it now before the rates go up. ditech.com. Call 1-800-71-FIXED.
You got 1 vanilla cone. Did you want sprinkles on that?
Yeah, sprinkles be great.
Lost your wallet? We'll help you replace any major credit card 24/7. When you carry American Express traveler's checks, so you can get back to your vacation.
Sprinkles.
next 30 seconds, more than a dozen Americans will turn 65. Even more will turn 55. But can they afford to retire? Only time will tell. Are you ready? Learn how to provide for your retirement by logging on to GEFinancial.com and make it more interesting. Enter GE Financial's retirement sweepstakes. You could win $250,000. Now, what are you waiting for?
I've heard a lot from some viewers around the world about my somewhat critical comments last week about the Earth Summit that ended today in Johannesburg, South Africa. Now, I've been critical of the Earth Summit for taking on two worthy and weighty, but all but insoluble problems of adequately protecting the environment and at the same time ending world poverty. Either goal, lofty goal, is certainly sufficiently challenging, but neither goal is likely to be solved in conference. Certainly not one with 60,000 people attending, many of whom seemed to have the goal of privately gorging on steak and lobster while publicly worrying over the impoverished and, of course, acting out their anti-American views and sentiments. Today, demonstrators in that conference booed and jeered Secretary of State Colin Powell as he articulated the U.S. position on the environment and poverty, and as he criticized some African nations for policies that are punishing their already impoverished and starving peoples. Zimbabwe, which Secretary Powell pointed out has pushed millions of citizens to the brink of starvation with its land reform programs, and Zambia, Mozambique, and Zimbabwe, which together have rejected genetically engineered corn for 14 million hungry people, 300,000 of whom could die of disease and starvation over the next 6 months. There are 17,000 tons of American corn now waiting in warehouses in Zambia for distribution. By the way, it is the same corn that Americans eat in this country every day. I'd suggest the conference next time take up a familiar theme with some practical possibilities. Think global, but act local. And I certainly hope President Bush will continue to avoid such gatherings and perhaps consider not subjecting in the future any U.S. official to such disrespect by baying hypocrites who are more interested in their political agendas than the powerless people who are being left to die by their governments just several hundred miles north of where the Earth Summit convened and ended. Now for a look at your thoughts. Pam Ricker in Ohio wrote, in response to our story last night on states' efforts to make up their budget deficits with so-called sin taxes, saying, if the government is looking for a real sin product to tax, try French fries. A 10-cent federal tax on any size French fry should balance the budget and reduce medical costs. And Cliff Bergen in Vancouver is shocked by outrageous legal damage awards. Has it occurred to anyone that when a jury sets these obscenely high punitive awards that perhaps the citizens are sending a message to corporations about their obscene, obstructive, manipulative business practices in seeking to take advantage of the little guy consumer? And Jay Ross in West Virginia wrote in favor of our nightly Enron scoreboard, saying, please keep the Enron scoreboard alive. At the risk of seeming very negative, most of us believe the people truly responsible for this will never see jail or loss of ill-gotten gain. You may be the last chance for us to see some small amount of justice. Keep the truth alive. We will certainly do our very best. As always, we appreciate you writing in. We'd love to hear from you. Our address, moneyline@cnn.com, and we ask you to include your name and address as well. Well, those are your words. Let's turn to their words.
The president wants to engage in the debate that democracies must go through in order for the public to fully understand the issues, in order for Congress to play its full role in this issue, and in order for the world to play its role. And so the president will consult, the president will listen, and the president will lead.
In the face of famine, several governments in southern Africa have prevented critical U.S. food assistance from being distributed to the hungry by rejecting biotech corn, which has been eaten safely around the world since 1995. Disregard for the environment. Disregard for the environment threatens the world's natural resources and all who depend on them for food, fuel, shelter, and livelihood.
Hollywood clearly is clueless when it comes to understanding today's seniors. They're blind to the advances in medicine and self-care, and the increases in personal income have made us a force to be reckoned with and a market to be exploited. I mean, 20 years ago, it was accurate to show a senior coming in for a checkup dragging his oxygen tank. Today, he'd be dragging his golf clubs.
And that is Moneyline for this Wednesday evening. Join us tomorrow. Our guests tomorrow night include Campaign and Elections Editor-in-Chief Ron Fauché and pollster John Zogby. We'll be taking a look at the political climate around the country and the status of hotly contested elections. PBS television host Jim Lehrer joins the Dobbs list. He's written a fascinating murder mystery centered around the remains of a Civil War soldier entitled No Certain Rest. Jim Lehrer will be here. Thanks for being with us tonight. For all of us here, good night from New York.
Crossfire. On the left, James Carville and Paul Begala. On the right, Robert Novak and Tucker Carlson. In the Crossfire tonight, bringing Congress into Duluth on Iraq.
And today the process starts.
How long will it take? And is war inevitable?
There has to be a better case made.
Plus, the Senate debates Homeland Security. But why is the president insisting it has to be done his way?
I fear it's because there are a group of partisan, ideological, anti-worker advisors who have steered the President of the United States in the wrong direction.
Plus, the Clinton alumni. Why aren't they doing better? And why some say this is no way to honor September 11th. Ahead on Crossfire. From the George Washington University, James Carville and Tucker Carlson.
Welcome to Crossfire tonight. President Bush tries leading. Will Congress follow him into Iraq? Also, the flat-out dumbest tie-in you've ever heard for the win of a talent show. But first, the stories that our judges have deemed worthy to be part of the best political briefing in television. Here comes the Crossfire Political Alert. President Bush called congressional leaders to the White House today to tell them Saddam Hussein is not a nice guy. The administration keeps saying the U.S. wants regime change in Iraq. They must think it sounds better than saying they want to start a war. The administration also keeps repeating that is this, quote, the beginning of a process. If that's true, where were Dick Cheney's speeches last week? Or all the military leaks we've been reading about for months? If these guys intend to wage a war in the same way they're conducting the public relations battle to win support for a war, good luck.
It's interesting. I know this was not a principle observed in the Clinton White House, but war and public relations actually are two different things.
But what we're basically saying is to be competent at one thing, you're more likely to be competent at another thing. I can't think of one thing this White House is
I know a lot of inarticulate generals.
Right.
Secretary of State Colin Powell has arrived at the Earth Summit bearing gifts, U.S. political, organizational, and millions of dollars in financial support for programs to protect rainforests and river basins, for clean drinking water programs, even for training third world environmental managers. In return, the Secretary of State was loudly booed by a hall full of protesters, all of them arrogant, ignorant, spoiled children of Western privilege and wealth. Powell tried to speak but was drowned out. The protesters, meanwhile, kept screaming, presumably in support of free speech and free expression. This is a guy probably the most well-mannered, gentlemanly person in all of Washington, screamed down by a bunch of environmental leaders.
I don't know why they scream down him. He's the only one trying to keep these lunatics in this administration in line. I think he's a distinguished American. Republican Bill Simon has no chance of getting elected governor of California. However, he may be able to write a book on how not to run a campaign. His latest embarrassment, getting disinvited from a Republican fundraiser because he flip-flopped on gay issues. Simon's signature is on a questionnaire pledging that if elected, he'll declare Gay Pride Day, support for domestic partnership laws, and uphold state regulations against gay discrimination. Now Simon says an aide filled out the questionnaire, he never saw it, and he doesn't support it. Just like a lot of California Republicans wish they'd never seen Bill Simon. Sorry, you stuck with it.
You know, James, I've noticed a certain trend here. Whenever we talk about California, you talk about this man. You never talk about the current governor, Gray Davis, because like all Democrats, I imagine you're embarrassed of him.
I'm not embarrassed.
He's going to be reelected, and it's tragic.
It's not tragic at all.
Of course it is.
This guy, what he really said was it was an auto pen that did it. You know, this is a dog ate my homework clown if I ever saw it.
Probably was an auto pen, actually. Priscilla Owen will not become a federal appeals court judge. According to sources on Capitol Hill, Owen, who is President Bush's nominee to the Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals, will be voted down tomorrow by Democrats in the Senate Judiciary Committee. Why? Because she once expressed support for a Texas law that requires children to tell their parents before having an abortion. For this one act, Owen was branded an anti-choice extremist by the abortion lobby. Democrats, much of whose campaign money comes from the abortion industry, listened, and obediently they acted and it's a total outrage.
Well, you know
That's
what?
extremism.
You know what's so outrageous?
Saying that parents ought to be notified?
to do that news alert, not put in that. Alberto Gonzales, President Bush's own counsel, said that she
That's
went
totally
outside the
false.
construction
He was referring to somebody else's. You know, James. That's not even true.
Of course it's true.
It's not true.
Of course it's true.
Gonzales
I tell you what, he supported. He wrote the memo saying that she went outside of things.
He went on television.
You're going to take it up with the New York Times.
Right.
Catholic priests in Los Angeles have dedicated a new $195 million cathedral. It's a mixed blessing, to say the least. It isn't exactly Notre Dame, but Los Angeles isn't exactly Paris either. Some critics says it reminds them of the Las Vegas theme hotel. Others wonder if it's the best use of the church's money. After all, Los Angeles Archdiocese is facing class action lawsuit by victims of pedophile priests. Sure, the new church will still be around long after the victims are gone. But isn't the church's purpose to minister to the living and not build monuments to clerical egos? The Good Samaritan was more practical.
I'll have to agree with you there.
Thank you, sir.
You're welcome. Early this summer, the Senate Ethics Committee severely admonished Democrat Robert Torricelli. Torricelli, you may remember, took thousands in unreported gifts from a convicted felon. Then he lied about it. This much we know. But there is so much more we don't know. Did Torricelli obstruct a federal investigation? Did he threaten a witness? Did he brag about having close friends in the mafia? And if he didn't, how does he explain these allegations? The answers may lie in Torricelli's testimony to the Ethics Committee. The transcript is off limits to you and me, the public, just as Torricelli wants it to be. Now, a group of senators is pushing to release the evidence to allow sunlight to shine on the dark corners of Torricelli's past. 3 of the reform-minded senators are Republicans. That's no surprise. But the 4th is not. He is Joe Lieberman of Connecticut, the only Democratic senator out of 50 with the courage to put truth over partisanship. Good for you, Joe Lieberman. Amen. Good for Joe Lieberman. You're not going to defend Torricelli. Come on.
They forget to mention that there's a criminal investigation, and I go back to Alberto Gonzales, said this woman, Patricia Owens, was going outside of strict construction of the Constitution.
What in the world are you talking about?
I'm talking about the thing that you did the last time. No, you said something I said was a lie, and it wasn't a lie. It was an absolute fact. And anytime somebody makes a fact you don't like, you say it's a lie. It's not a lie.
I still defy you to defend Robert Torricelli.
I think he's made a mistake, but I think he's fought on behalf of a lot of good causes and a lot of good people.
Okay. In a 1-2 punch designed to make Congress feel loved, needed, and necessary, House and Senate leaders today got briefings on Iraq from President Bush himself. Defense Secretary Donald Rumsfeld followed up this afternoon with a closed-door session for U.S. senators. 2 of them join us now. Please welcome Democrat Bill Nelson of Florida and Republican Kit Bond of Missouri.
Senator Bond, I want to show you a couple of things that's going on in U.S. public opinion right now. First, support for U.S. ground troops in Iraq. In December, 70% did, 22% don't. Today, it's only 51-40, a dramatic drop. Second, I want to show you what people think about voting Republican this cycle. Right now, according to CNN, 50% of people say they're going to vote Democratic, 42 Republican. So you're down 8 points in the congressional generic. You've lost 20-something points in support for this. Tell me I'm not being cynical by thinking that somehow or another this is coming up 60 days before the election. What do we know today that we didn't know 10 months ago?
Well, I think, Jim, you may be a little bit back in your old habits because President Clinton tried to take the heat off of his problems by blowing up a couple of mud huts.
Right.
But I think
what do we know today we didn't know 10 months ago?
In this instance, I think that we have seen a continuing effort by Saddam Hussein. I believe that President Bush has cited all along there is an axis of evil. He has launched the war against terrorism that began last September, and he has continued to prosecute it. And I think the American people, while they may be very much concerned about war, don't want to have another terrorist attack, particularly if it's weapons of mass destruction.
I agree with all that. I'm just asking, why couldn't we do this 10 months ago? Why are we 60 days before an election that the president's party is losing and supporting us dropping, and all of a sudden he says, now we go into the Congress?
We don't need a war to win the election. We're going to win that anyhow. But that's beside the point. The president is not looking at the political polls. The president has continued to prosecute a war. We have disrupted the Taliban. We have driven the Al-Qaeda out of their caves and into their rat holes. This is a continuing effort. It's an ongoing effort that the president and vice president have pursued since the tragedy of September 11th. And I think the question is, when do we need to move? This is a ticking time bomb. And I don't agree with the assumption that comes with your question that we can wait until after the election and count on Saddam Hussein, Al-Qaeda, and others.
Well, I'm going to let Tucker get in, but I wouldn't agree with your assumption if somebody could just tell me something we knew now we didn't know 10 months ago.
That's exactly what I wanted to ask you, Senator Nelson. You heard Senator Bond say this is a ticking time bomb. The threat is imminent. The president and the vice president have said virtually the same thing. If it wasn't true, why would they say it? What possible motive would they have to say that if they didn't know it to be true?
Well, is Saddam a threat? Yes. Would we like him out of there? Yes. Is he developing weapons of mass destruction? I think he is. But the fact is, you don't go and suddenly declare war unless you've got the people with you by making the case. And in this case, the president has got to get his own administration unified, because the administration split right down the middle, just like the people of this country.
But it seems to me the crux of this comes down to this. The president apparently has information that the rest of us, excluding perhaps you two, do not have, that indicates that the threat is real, imminent, et cetera, et cetera. I want to listen to a quote from Ehud Barak, James Carville's former employer. Here's what he said about why the rest of us may not know what the administration knows, and I wonder if you agree with this.
I believe that the case against Iraq is very, very strong, but for obvious reasons. The president, as well as Tony Blair and our intelligence community, cannot share it with the public before the time is ripe.
Isn't that plausible, that they know all this information, they can't share it, we have to trust them?
Well, you would think that there would be some kind of intelligence analysis that would be within the possession of responsible leadership in the Congress. But there has been no evidence coming forth as to why James said in the last 10 months anything has changed. Now, is he trying to develop a nuclear weapon? I think he is. And so at some point, we need to take action. But at this point, suddenly to rattle all of these sabers like we're going in tomorrow, it just doesn't add up.
Why, if he's developing a nuclear weapon, isn't that the strongest, scariest possible threat there is? Why not rattle sabers? Why not stop him?
He's been doing that for some period of time. And so James was asking, why is all of this rhetoric, this breastbeating coming now? I think that's a reasonable question.
Somebody, all of us, if there's something like this is happening, people want to say, okay, fine, if this is what it is, just like all the Democrats and Nelson, you and every one of your colleagues in the Senate supported the president on the war on terrorism. There was a news story you read before we came in here where all the senators were expressing skepticism about the Secretary of Defense's visit today, or nothing was offered, even Senator Santorum, who is, as you well know, one of the more conservative members of the United States Senate. Why wasn't the Secretary of Defense more forthcoming today when he met with the United States senators about this?
Well, I think he talked about a lot of things that we know. A lot of the things that we can talk about here are things when you look at the list of things. And to be consistent, President Bush has long said that this is the axis of evil. He has been consistently pushing forward on the war against terrorism. And we know that Saddam Hussein continues to fire on our planes. The war is still going on in the no-fly zone. We know that he kicked the inspectors out. We know that Saddam Hussein has been offering bounties to suicide bombers. Right. The president has said he is going to consult with Congress, and he is in the process of consulting with Congress. Now, there is from what they've said, there is no plan to go in immediately. But I would add one caveat. If we do get reliable, classified intelligence information that a terrorist attack is imminent, he'd be crazy not to move. And I think Democrats and Republicans, we'd support him. But we're not talking about going to war tomorrow. The president has said this is something that we've got to focus on. This is a major problem. This is the next step that we must take, and we have been relatively successful in stopping terrorist attacks since September 11th, and the president has to use the best judgment that he and his people can present on how to do it.
Well, Senator Nelson, a number of Democrats have said, the former president, Mr. Clinton, said last night, and Larry King, that we need to send this back to the UN and get weapons inspectors back into Iraq. But it's been nearly 4 years since weapons inspectors were kicked out, and the UN hasn't forced them back in. So I wonder why the UN has any credibility at all on Iraq.
Well, we ought to at least try. I mean, we've got to get our allies with us. We can't do this thing alone. Militarily, we could do it alone, but in terms of protecting our Arab friends in that region of the world, we need them behind us. In terms of not spilling over into the Middle East situation between the Palestinians and Israel, protecting our oil supply coming out of there, we need our European allies, and you know, we need to lay it out on the table. What's going to be the cost? What's the potential cost in American lives? The American people need, and if the president makes the case, they'll be behind him, but he's got to make the case. And he has not, and I would respectfully disagree with Kit that his consulting, they haven't brought up anything to the Congress at this point.
Senator Bond, are you aware of any information that we're not aware of a tie between Saddam Hussein and Al-Qaeda?
I don't know what you're aware of, but let me just say that we know that his foreign minister, what I've seen in the media, his foreign minister has met with one of the attackers. Recently there were newscasts about Al-Qaeda operating a chemical weapons facility in northern Iraq. I believe those things are known. The support that Saddam Hussein has given to the terrorist organizations that operate out of Baghdad, and the bounty that he has offered for terrorist bombers. I think those things are well known. Now, to say that we need weapons inspectors, obviously it would be great if we could get them in, but we're not going to be able to get them in unless we send in the 82nd Airborne, the 101st.
Yeah, we got to get a commercial in here. Maybe no weapons inspector, but we got to take a quick commercial in.
In a minute, we'll ask our guests about another top national priority before the United States Senate, the Department of Homeland Security. Later, a new low even for television, if you can imagine. Perhaps you can't. Win a talent show, be part of a memorial service for September 11th. And in our quote today, one of those game show finalists tells us what she'd do to win. We'll be right back.
It's surprising how much you miss from 35,000 feet, especially this time of year. Can you hear the leaves of gold crunch beneath your feet? Feel the warmth of family, or show your old hometown to someone who's never seen it before. Get yourself down to ground level. That's where the memories live. There are over 4 million miles of roads in Alamo country, and with values like this, they're easy to explore. Alamo, the official rental car of the American vacation.
Great. Another network problem.
Someone left the firewall door open again.
Wasn't me.
Access? I'm access, not security.
I thought security is everyone's problem.
Excuse me. Legacy. Legacy.
You're not the boss of me.
Okay, good.
Hold on. Who are you guys?
We're vendors.
That's good.
Want a more secure network? At Genuity, we manage and monitor every inch of your network. Genuity.
What a great room.
So comfortable.
What about that breakfast buffet?
Oh, you can eat.
I can't believe a room only cost us $99 a night. $99?
For both of you?
How did you get such a great deal? Hotels.com. Hotels.com.
Save on thousands of hotels worldwide. Hotels.com. The best prices at the best places, guaranteed. Behind the headlines are real people with extraordinary stories. One journalist takes you there. Connie Chung, tonight 8 Eastern, only on CNN.
Ray Reese Volkswagen of Portland. Portland's largest volume Volkswagen dealer. Zero down delivers any Volkswagen in stock. Every 2002 Jetta in stock. Portland's largest selection. Every 2002 new Beetle in stock. Portland's lowest prices. Every 2002 Passat in stock. There can only be one leader. Ray Reese Volkswagen of Portland. 122nd and Burnside. Drivers wanted.
It's our summer parking lot sale.
Where free is a very good price.
Free mini brunch.
Free Tom Peterson haircut.
Free gift with every purchase.
Farm tables, we have them all. And today you can buy this table and 4 chairs for only $149.
Join us this weekend.
Have a chip.
Take a sip.
Sit right down and have a clip. Now that's Tom Peterson.
And glorious too.
CNN.
Welcome back. In order to protect us from terrorists, President Bush wants a new Department of Homeland Security. However, he's threatened to veto a bill the Senate is debating right now because it includes the same rights and protection for the department's 170,000 workers as members of the cabinet agencies have. What's wrong with that? Has union busting become more important in the war on terrorism? In the Crossfire, Republican Senator Kit Bond of Missouri and Democratic Senator Bill Nelson of Florida.
Senator Nelson, you just heard James Carville say something like, has union busting become more important than the war on terrorism? I guess I'd flip it around in a more obvious and much more accurate formulation and ask you, when people look at the debate about this department now being created, they say, well, gee, this is a department created to end terrorism. Democrats are mad because some of the employees won't have, labor protections that the AFL-CIO approves of. How do you explain it? Is that really the most important debate about the Department of Homeland Security, do you think?
That's just one element of the debate. The main reason for the debate is, will this new agency be accountable? The Congress, the last time I checked, the Constitution says that it appropriates the monies, and you certainly want to make sure that the executive branch is not gathering all the power over 170,000 people coming from 22 agencies spending $38 billion. And then the labor issue that you raise, why should we sacrifice the civil rights of workers that every other civilian worker has in the federal government?
The civil rights? What do you mean, like they're going to discriminate against people if they're black or so? What are you talking about?
I'm talking about the protections in the workplace. Why sacrifice that? That doesn't have anything to do with the national security.
Literally every fireman and police officer that was killed on September 11th belonged to a union. Do you know of any union regulation or union protection, anything that prevented these people from doing their job?
I don't think that's a question. I think that we have military men and women fighting abroad who are in defense of the United States. Yeah. And if they don't do their job, they can get fired. Right. They get fired because they are not protected. We are in a war. This Homeland Security effort is designed to fight the war against terrorism. Now, they're talking about the civil rights. They have all the civil rights except you can hire and fire, and the president wants the power, and the Democratic version would take away some of the power of the president. Can I finish?
Go ahead.
Jim, let me just finish.
Sorry.
The Democratic version would take away some of the authority that the president now has over quasi-military law enforcement officers. If we had a choice between promoting the guy who identified Zacharias Moussaoui or firing the person who did not work on that, wouldn't you, as a matter of national security, want to be able to promote the person who was successful and demote or reassign the person who missed the clues?
You know, I submit to you, Senator, that a Kansas City fireman and a St. Louis policeman on the front lines of the battle against terrorism, and to a person, I bet you most of them belong to a union.
They do.
Can you think of any union regulations that stop these people from being good Americans, that stops these people from serving their country?
Americans? What is that?
That is just, well, you're saying that you can't have protection, that people, if they join a union, are not going to be very effective at protecting the United States, and I just respectfully disagree. I think St. Louis firemen and Kansas City policemen are perfectly able to join a union and protect the public.
Are St. Louis firemen going to be in the Department of Homeland Security?
No,
but what about this?
They don't have. Listen, the military doesn't have unions saying that if you sleep, go to sleep on your sentry post, you can't be.
Well, I just want to give Senator Nelson just a last word.
I was going to say, civilians in the Department of Defense have these protections. So if that's part of the protection,
you mean the civilians that work in the Department of Defense have union protection? And can they serve their country, Senator? Or are these people so encumbered by unions that they can't do anything?
I'd love to let the demagoguery go on, James, but unfortunately we are out of time. Senators, thank you both very much.
That shows who's running their bus. That's it. He's doing it again.
Thank you. Still ahead, the Clinton curse, one touch and your political career melts away. Also, the TV show that will decide who has what it takes to stand here on September 11th. And our quote of the day comes from one of the people who may, in fact, be standing there, if you can imagine. We'll be right back.
Could I get that report from you, Margaret? And also, I we'll need you to come in again and work this weekend. Oh. So, what are you going to be giving Timmy for his birthday?
Something nice.
Good.
Financial freedom. It has its advantages. Jefferson Pilot Financial. Investments, insurance.
Consider this. New Shell gasoline is specially formulated to help prevent deposits in your engine. And a clean engine performs better. Is it any wonder, then, why so many drivers choose Shell?
Well, I wake up to a sky so blue with my girlfriend in the other room. Got the coffee on, pancakes done. I get sleeping outside in the sun.
Introducing Comfort Sleepers from American Leather. Finally, a sleeper sofa that's comfortable as a sofa and as a bed. Comfort Sleepers, another American Leather innovation. Style and comfort day and night.
Well, it's a pretty good day. I'm looking forward to tomorrow.
The do-it-all trekkers from Land's End. They're good at walking. They're good at running. They're good at hiking. Biking. Dancing. And they're surprisingly good at being affordable. Just $29.50 to go anywhere, do anything trekkers. They're even good at kicking back. From Land's End, thinking outside the shoebox.
Tonight on CNN Primetime at 8, Connie Chung takes you beyond the headlines to get the human side of the day's events on Connie Chung Tonight. Then, if they're in the news, they're on with Larry. Top newsmakers and celebrities join the King of Talk on Larry King Live at 9. And at 10, Newsnight with Aaron Brown gives its own unique look at what's happening here and around the world. Connie Chung, Larry King, Aaron Brown. Beginning at 8 Eastern, it's all part of CNN Primetime Tonight.
Welcome back. Tonight on Fox TV, they'll pick the winner of a talent show called American Idol. One of the two contestants will win a fabulous, if highly questionable, prize. They'll get to sing the Star-Spangled Banner on the steps of the Lincoln Memorial as part of the Day of Remembrance ceremony on September 11th. We'll debate the taste, ethics, and entertainment value of all of this in a little bit. But just to let you know, the contestants are motivated by the highest possible principles. We're going to give one of them, Kelly Clarkson, our quote of the day. She said, quote, "This show is amazing. This has given us an opportunity we could not have paid for. I'm willing to do anything for this show." Kelly, I hope you don't get to sing on the Lincoln Memorial on September 11th.
But you know, James, this makes me sad. I read this quote, and I thought we have a lot of wonderful people who work here on Crossfire, and I thought, do they feel the same way? Would they do anything for our show? I mean, there is a certain, I don't know, commitment that Kelly shows.
I think it is a good question, and I think that we ought to pass out questionnaires.
We'll do that
maybe we'll
after the
submit
show.
the answers to John Ashcroft. You can have them blocked up.
Another non sequitur. It's the non sequitur show. Did the Justice Department play a role in Louisiana State University's firing of a bioweapons researcher? That would be Stephen Hatfield. Connie Chung has some new information for us. Next, in a CNN News Alert. In a little bit, Daily Show correspondent Mo Rocca will help put American Idol in the crossfire. Also, the political fortunes, most of them paltry, of the Clinton Club. We'll explain it. We'll be right back.
Join Carville, Begala, Carlson, and Novak in the Crossfire. For free tickets to the live Washington audience, call 202-994-8CNN or email us at cnn@gwu.edu. Now you can step into the Crossfire.
Mayfair strange in the morning light. Mayfair strange in a summer night. Mayfair strangest in the afternoon. Starry heights.
Yesterday, one of our advisors showed this woman how even if her brother outlives her, she can always be there for him.
In Code Blue, life can change in a heartbeat. All your hospital's resources matter in that heartbeat. Hospitals face a critical shortage of workers. We care for America's uninsured and may spend billions on disaster readiness. 1/3 of hospitals are losing money. and it's only getting worse. Urge your senators to help our hospitals now, because in a heartbeat, that could make all the difference.
Collegiate life provides a scholar with a plethora of choices. Take, get into class. Should one skate? Excuse me. Bike? Bus? Or, thanks to Dell, you could drive this, ladies. All through September, Dell's giving away new BMWs in the BMW a Day giveaway. Yep, Dell helps you get the right PC for you and the chance to get to class with class.
Call or go online now, and you can win a BMW in Dell's BMW a Day giveaway when you order America's favorite PC, like this Dimension desktop for just $6.99, featuring an Intel Pentium 4 processor with awesome performance for music, digital photos, gaming, and beyond. And for a limited time, you can get a free memory upgrade.
You must have gotten a Dell.
Easy to buy, easy to own, easy as Dell. Dell PCs use Intel Pentium 4 processors.
Hello, I'm Connie Chung at the CNN Broadcast Center in New York. Crossfire is back in 90 seconds, but first, these stories top our news alert. Louisiana State University insists an email message from the Justice Department ordering it not to employ Stephen Hatfill on justice-funded programs was not the reason for his dismissal from LSU. Hatfill has been called a, quote, person of interest in the federal investigation of last fall's anthrax attacks. The trial of two teenage boys accused of killing their father continued today in Pensacola, Florida. Derek and Alex King are charged with first-degree murder and arson, charges stemming from that last year's beating death of Terry King. The boys say a third suspect, Ricky Chavez, actually killed their father and coaxed the boys to take the blame.
If we took the blame, then we would get off on self-defense because we were juveniles. And he was saying that we could say that Derek had done it because he was stronger and stuff, and they believe that we get off on self-defense because of he's saying that we know all the abuse that he was doing to us.
Ricky Chavez was tried last week. A verdict was reached Friday, but remains sealed pending conclusion of the King brothers' trial. I'll have more on this case at the top of our hour. Sources say the Secret Service is holding a man found with a large cache of weapons in his car in downtown Washington today. The man, identified by law enforcement sources as Jeffrey Cloutier, will likely appear in court tomorrow. A woman in the car was detained as well. And those are the top stories this hour. I'll be back in 30 minutes, and now back to Tucker and James in Washington.
Well, Connie, I understand that you got something really interesting coming up tonight. Why don't you tell us about it?
All right, it's just an incredible story. A woman in the Angeles National Forest has a home, and she is so concerned because the Angeles National wildfire is closing in on her house. She calls 911 because she's afraid she's going to burn to death, and she tells them she has a Colt 45, she's going to kill herself. Two rescuers get to her, but they have to go through so much fighting flames and fighting rock slides, and they finally get to her, and one of them hears a gunshot go off. And I will tell you the rest of it because we're going to interview the woman and the two rescuers.
Well, I hope no union regulations.
Wow. Well, I assume she's not dead. I hope not. She won't be a good interview. But thank you, Connie Chung. That sounds terrific.
It really is an incredible story.
It sounds good. Thank you. The Ultimate Talent Show prize. If the winner of American Idol gets a spot in a National Day of Remembrance, why not a spot in a future Democratic administration? One of the questions we'll ask. Speaking of which, why are associates of the former Democratic president seeing their political careers crash and burn? That is next in the Crossfire.
Next time you're on the road and you need to fill your tank, here's something to consider. New Shell gasoline is specially formulated to help prevent deposit buildup in your engine, which helps keep it clean. And a clean engine performs better, which is why when they're looking for more from their gasoline, so many drivers choose Shell.
Where will the next great idea come from? The next trend? The next cure? More than likely, it will come from a small business. Because small business is about innovation, we created one for them. Open, the Small Business Network. New tools, services and savings for a small business economy from American Express.
Now's the time to join America Online, because now you'll get our best offer ever.
It's simple. If I can do it, you can do it.
If I knew it was this easy, I would have started a long time ago.
There's never been a better time to join.
That's right. Now's the best time for new members to try AOL.
Plug it in and you go.
Call 1-877-265-0100 and get our best offer ever. Plus features you'll only find on AOL.
When you know you got mail, you hear this really cool voice that says,
"You've got mail."
Oh, I love that.
I wonder who that guy is.
My single favorite feature has got to be instant messages.
It's having a verbal chat electronically.
Our free 24-hour customer service representatives are always available by phone.
They're very responsive. They speak your language.
Nicest, kindest, most patient people I know.
Parental controls help keep kids safe.
My mom's got it, my dad's got it, both my brothers got it.
AOL has it all.
You can have it all, too. Call 1-877-265-0100. Join AOL now and get our best offer ever. America Online. So easy to use, no wonder it's #1.
Every day.
Every night. Everywhere. You can depend on CNN.
Fiery debate from the left and the right.
It's the human side of human events.
It's the people you'll be talking about tomorrow, tonight. Or a different way of looking at the story. Every day, every night, everywhere. You can depend on CNN. CNN.
You can depend on CNN.
It's the only planet known to sustain life. The only one whose atmosphere has been regulated by nature to create the perfect balance. But today, the Earth is warming, and nature's not doing it. Fortunately, all of us know someone who has the power to do something.
Welcome back to Crossfire. We're coming to you live from the George Washington University in beautiful Foggy Bottom in downtown Washington, D.C. Former President Bill Clinton says his political career is over, but that isn't true for other members of the Clinton administration. Senator Hillary Clinton, of course, is the only First Lady to be elected to the United States Senate, and other members of the Clinton Club are running for office this year with mixed results. We're going to survey right now. Joining us from Chicago is former presidential advisor and dear friend of mine and the most annoying little runt you'll ever run across, Rahm Emanuel, who's running for Congress and is widely expected to win. And with him is Republican strategist and gorgeous woman, former New York Congressman Susan Molinari.
Almost Congressman, thank you for joining us. I appreciate it. And congratulations on being one of the few, perhaps the only veteran in the Clinton administration to do well. It does seem like the closer the Clintons get to a candidate, the worse he does. Witness yesterday with Andrew Cuomo, who put Clinton in his ads. But earlier than that, Steve Grossman in Massachusetts, who was endorsed by the former president and then dropped out of the race because after that, nobody wanted to vote for him. Why does Clinton hurt candidates so much?
Well, listen, I happen to think that it's not that the president, in fact, hurts. In fact, I think that without that credential of having worked for him, you really would lack essential ingredient to run. But you have to translate that into what you've done, what you're going to do. And, you know, as the president used to say, elections aren't about the past. They're about the future as it relates to people's lives. And you have to make a case what you're going to do to help people, help their lives, whether it comes to retirement security, health care security, helping afford college education. Without the credential of having worked in the White House or the administration, you're not going to have what is, I think, essential, the credibility kind of bar to run and to announce. After that, you've got to make it on your own and be able to translate that into what it means to people's lives going forward, not the past. The credential is essential, but you've got to make the case about the future to the voters and to their concerns.
Ms. Mueller, there's a person who's reputedly was close to President Clinton, namely his wife, Mrs. Clinton, who ran in a state that you know something about, and she won in a crushing landslide, I think, by 12 points. what are we having a show about? I mean, Rahm won in a big two. The truth of the matter is some people are doing very well and some people don't do as well.
Well, the truth is I think that, you know, right now, particularly as we look into this election cycle, when people have had time to mull over the Clinton presidency, there's people who fall into two camps. Those people who he doesn't help or don't want his help, like Erskine Bowles, Janet Reno, Andrew Cuomo, Robert Reich, and then there's Rahm Emanuel, who seems to be able to do pretty well. But that's it. The Clinton legacy is over. Bill Richardson was a member of Congress who really established himself internationally before he became a member of the Clinton administration.
I think Susan Molinari makes a great point. If you look at each race individually, I think your point stands, that voters judge the candidate by his own credentials and ability, et cetera, et cetera. You're right there. But if you stand back a little bit and look at the statistical picture of this, the vast majority of the veterans of the Clinton administration are failing. There is a pattern. There just is. How could there not be?
Tucker, what's out here, listen, you have the First Lady won. I haven't won my election yet. I'm actually, as soon as I'm done here, I'm going to go walk a precinct. I'm not taking anything for granted here. But the fact is, the president is, if the question is he a liability? No, it's an asset. But you have to translate it. And I don't think you can draw a conclusion about Steve Grossman or about Andrew Cuomo if you're not going to and then look at the First Lady or happen to be, I had him in. I talked about my record, what I did with them on health care for kids. That is essential as I talked about what I want to do to the future. It is an essential threshold of credibility.
But you just said a second ago, this is a little bit off track, but I can't let it go. You said that you're not taking this election for granted. You're not taking this election for granted, yet there was this very amusing New York Times piece the other day about how you were trying to get a seat on the Ways and Means Committee even before the election. So if you're not taking it for granted, why were you trying to elbow your way into a seat on that committee?
Well, listen, as Susan knows, and maybe this would be good for you, Tucker, if you run for Congress, somebody's going to ask you what you want to do and where you want to serve. If you can't announce what legislative committee you want to serve on, you should think of another line of work. I've announced what I'd like to do. That is the committee I'd like to work on because it deals with health care, it deals with taxes. Those are things I've worked on. I'm not going to say I'm going to get them, but that's my interest. And that's what you do when you want to run.
Well, you gave him a stop.
I want to give Rahm A+ for delivering his message. That's a man
that threw the ball and you swung it right over.
I don't know why Tucker finds it so offensive. I think Rahm is a great friend, a great guy. What member of Congress would not want to be on the Ways and Means Committee?
That's why I said he just threw him a softball that he just hit right across.
Come on, sit over here. Hey, Tucker.
But, you know,
go ahead, Susan. I'm sorry.
I mean, the truth is that, you know, one of the reasons why I wanted to come on tonight was to talk about New York, which is just another show of how the Clinton legacy sometimes can hurt and sometimes can hurt badly. I mean, here we have a man who didn't even stand by his own Secretary of Housing and Urban Development.
He didn't get involved in a primary. Come on, he was very, I mean, that is a patently unfair. Hey, Carl McCall is a great Democrat, is a friend of President Clinton, is a friend of Senator Clinton's, and it would be ludicrous for him to get involved in, and if he got involved in a New York State primary, people would howl and say, what's he doing?
But by not getting involved, James, he really got involved. I mean, Chuck Schumer got involved, and this is, I want to just say one thing, because all the media, everything I read today, played up this whole thing about how Clinton came in and he tied this thing, and he really cut the deal, and he was the one that helped to make, you know, McCall the stronger candidate. And the truth is that if the Clintons put a hammer in the nail of the coffin of Andrew Cuomo, it was really Chuck Schumer who built that coffin for him.
Wait, let me say, maybe he did, but I just want to say, if he came out and endorsed somebody, say, well, here he is, he just moved to New York, now he's endorsing someone. I mean, all this is, if Clinton is so bad in New York, why did Mrs. Clinton win by 12 points?
We could go through that entire campaign all over again, and I think Rick Lazio would be the first one who would come on TV and talk about what he did that was wrong.
Wait a second. Quick question. Can I just ask you one question before you go, because we're almost out of time. Why a lot of Republicans are putting Hillary Clinton in their ads to raise money off of her negative image? Why are no Democrats putting Hillary in their ads? I wonder.
You know, go ask them. I don't know. I mean, I don't understand. Tucker, I don't understand the question. I mean,
the question is, why are Democrats embarrassed of it?
Ron, let me ask you a question. In your district, what are people asking you about? Bill Clinton or affordable health care? What are they asking you about? Bill Clinton education?
No, you know,
tell us what you're hearing.
Listen, I did Jefferson L stop this morning. I'm about to go do a precinct walk. I did one the other night near Wrigleyville. Everybody is talking about things that matter to them. There's kids' education, crime in the neighborhood, more police on the streets. It is about their lives. It's not about Bill Clinton's life.
Well, yeah, now
Thank you, Ron. You've answered these withering questions.
I'm glad we could all
But I
be
must
part of
say, I
this
don't
Rahm
believe
Emanuel
you.
campaign.
I think they're talking about Hillary Clinton. But Rahm Emanuel, congratulations.
Since I got called a runt on TV, I thought I'd give a runt answer.
You maximized your opportunities. Have great admiration, Rob.
You're both great guests. You're both great people. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Coming up, a viewer who saw our debate over letting women into the Augusta National Golf Club last night. She fired back a hole-in-one. But next, choosing the low light for next week's remembrance of September 11th. It really is appalling. You'll have to see it to believe it. We'll be right back.
Mayfair strange in the morning light, Mayfair strange in a summer night, Mayfair strangest in the afternoon. Starry heights.
Yesterday, one of our advisors showed this woman how even if her brother outlives her, she can always be there for him.
I wake up to a sky so blue with my girlfriend in the other room. Got the coffee on, pancakes done. I get sleeping outside in the sun.
American Leather offers you 70 different styles in 70 colors to choose from, custom made for you. American Leather, your style, your choice, your way.
Well, it's a pretty good day. I'm looking forward to tomorrow.
Okay, folks, let's get this party started. Call Seattle. Get McGregor on the phone.
Calling him now.
Morning. Morning.
Sir. This is Scott McGregor. I'll be out of the office all day. Please leave a message.
That's not like McGregor.
McGregor's not there?
Great.
Excuse me, there's a Mr. McGregor here to see you.
With Southwest Airlines last-minute fares, you'll never pay more than $2.99 one way. So why would you fly with anyone else?
You are now free to move about the country.
Wow. I have to call Mother. You should see this place, Mom. So luxurious. Doug must have paid $500 a night.
My wife thinks I spent a fortune on this honeymoon, but I got the room for $99 on Hotels.com. Great deal. 2 clicks, and I had a room.
Save on thousands of hotels worldwide. Hotels.com. The best prices at the best places, guaranteed.
With revolutionary new Sirius satellite radio in his car, a man finds he feels more like a man. Does he need to ask for directions? Never. He's got 100 channels of commercial-free music in his car, so there's no need to actually arrive. And just where does a guy with all this entertainment prefer to dine?
Did you want any ketchup with that? Girls?
Why, in his car, of course. Call now and get a $75 mail-in rebate. Sirius satellite radio. You'll never want to leave your car.
She's bold, compassionate, tenacious.
I'm going to ask the questions that you want me to ask.
One journalist, one network, infinite stories. Connie Chung, bringing it all to CNN tonight.
Welcome back to Crossfire. Is winning a spot on the steps of the Lincoln Memorial during a National Day of Remembrance ceremony on September 11th better than winning a dishwasher or a new car? Fox TV's American Idol answers that question tonight when the judges pick either Kelly Clarkson or Justin Guarini to sing the Star-Spangled Banner during next week's ceremony. It's appalling, but to help us sample the excitement permeating from New York, we're joined by Mo Rocca, correspondent for Comedy Central's The Daily Show. Thanks for joining us, Mo.
Thank you for having me. Mo, Placido Domingo is actually a resident of Washington, D.C. Why would anyone want to hear somebody who runs something on an idiot television show as opposed to one of the great singers of all time? And wouldn't he singing the national anthem be much more appropriate than
you know what?
somebody
You're
in this goofy show?
You're missing the point here. American Idol is a very important show here. To me, it represents, and to millions of others, it represents the revitalization of American democracy. More people will end up voting in this competition than will vote in the midterm elections in November. R.J. Helton, a candidate who was kicked off 5 weeks ago, still got more votes than Senate Majority Leader Tom Daschle has ever gotten. Young people are engaged with democracy once again, and it's shocking that you, too, inside the Beltway, can't accept that.
Yeah, but see, here's the problem, and I'm all for democracy, but when democracy takes place in South Dakota, you get Tom Daschle. When democracy takes place on Fox, I want to show you a picture of what you get. Now, this is the guy, Justin. I don't know if you can see it in your monitor. There's Justin.
Yes.
Justin may be singing at the Lincoln Memorial, where leaders of American life for generations have stood. I mean, are there words for that?
Yes, there are words for that, and I'll be honest with you. I am endorsing Kelly. I'm not paid by her organization. I am endorsing her. Justin Guarini, when he sings, I, like most American voters, start to choke on my own vomit. I will admit that right now. But she, however, she's a great American, and in tracking poll after tracking poll, it looks like she's going to trounce him. So we have to trust the American voters. That said, I do think that turnout is very, very important right now. And these candidates cannot be complacent. You know, it's down to the wire right now.
Now, Mo, you're going negative on Justin. I mean, is there really a place for negative campaigning when you're trying to pick something as important as a winner of a TV contest?
Absolutely. Kelly, let me tell you something. Kelly Clarkson has sung about the issues that Americans care about. Last night, she sang the song Respect by Aretha Franklin. American voters, time and time again, have shown that they care about respect.
But Justin, I want to know something that I want to know some bad.
Let me tell you about Justin. All right, I'll tell you. 3 weeks ago, Justin sang PYT. Okay, that was his Vietnam, the tragedy that will undo his candidacy. It was terrible.
Well, but wait a second. I want to know about Kelly's character issue, as we call it here on Crossfire. We had the quote of the day, and she was quoted as saying something to the effect of, "I will do anything to win. Anything." What does she mean by that, Mo?
Yeah. Kelly is from the heartland. Right. Kelly is from the heartland. She's from Texas, one of the red states. And she represents the flyover space. Justin is from Pennsylvania, a blue state. I don't think he'll pull through. You know, I'm not envisioning. I hope we're not going to get another Florida on our hands here.
I'll tell you, Mo, when Kelly says that she would do anything to get a vote, I think she's sending a signal out to these all-important young male voters that I don't know is exactly within keeping of the high moral standards in this country.
You know what? I'm going to try to spin this as well as I can. I probably need a little bit of time. I can't believe that she would do that. She's shown integrity so far in the competition. You know, I think she sings really well. That's all I can say for her. And she's, and, you know, we're going to stick to the issue.
Well, you are literally you're the Larry Sabato of reality television. So I want you to make a quick prediction. We're almost out of time. Who's going to win this competition?
Kelly's going to walk away with it, but I have 3 words for her. Dewey defeats Truman. Okay, she cannot get complacent right now. The red states have higher turnout, but weather is always a factor. We've got tornadoes in the Midwest. We've got to, you know, she's got to do everything she can to get voters to the phones right now. But she's going to come through. She's going to be your American Idol. And right now, I think that Justin should pull an Andrew Cuomo. I think he should back out. He should endorse Kelly so that all Americans can unite behind Kelly as our American Idol.
It's time
Mo Rocket,
to get together.
You can make this political. You can make anything political. Thank you so much for joining us.
Choose or lose, people. Choose or lose.
All right. No cliches out of the Mosta.
Not on our show.
I guarantee you.
Next, our viewers get a chance to fire back, and they're taking aim, believe it or not, at American Idol. Despite the endorsement from Mo Rocca, find out what they say. We'll be right back.
If you'd like to fire back at Crossfire, email us at crossfire@cnn.com. Make sure to include your name and hometown.
Yeah, the network's switching over now.
Network, what's going on? Take a look, shall we?
The phone lines are down.
Voice, you take over. Switching to data. 3, 2. Got it.
Want to keep your business up and running? Genuity's Black Rocket combines voice and data on a single secure network. Genuity.
He was a potential suspect in the kidnapping of Elizabeth Smart. Now Richard Reese has died and his widow Angela is ready to talk. A Larry King Live exclusive, CNN Tonight, 90.
Win a dream bedroom from award-winning designer Alexander Julian. Visit Interior Motives before September 6th to enter. Then view it for yourself with the Street of Dreams. Your inspiration is our expertise at Interior Motives, Park 217 in Tigard.
After months of design and construction, the Lewis River's fabulous new clubhouse, restaurant, and banquet facilities are completed. The Lewis River Golf Course features 18 of some of the finest golf holes in the Northwest. Planning your company tournament? Whether your group is 250 or 20, it's the perfect place for you. Planning a wedding reception? Our banquet hall and catering services are the best. Just 35 minutes north from either Columbia River Bridge, 5 miles east from Woodland, Washington.
Dad, will you read me a story?
Sorry, champ, I've got to work.
Dad, will you play box with me?
Sorry, Pumpkin, this is due tomorrow.
Dad, finger paint would be fun.
Sorry, sweetheart, my job is on the line.
Dad, will you play Hot Wheels with me?
At Tonkin, we have the widest range of things that go vroom in town because we know how it is with cars.
AT&T Broadband.
For kids.
The big noggins that make noggin. Big noggin number 1. Big noggin number 2. Sesame Workshop. Big noggin number 3. Kids are the biggest big noggin behind noggin because noggin is the first 24-hour thinking network totally sparked by kids.
Upgrade to digital cable from AT&T Broadband for a world of fun for kids on Noggin.
Win a dream bedroom from award-winning designer Alexander Julian. Visit Interior Motives before September 6th to enter. Then view it for yourself at the Street of Dreams. Your inspiration is our expertise at Interior Motives, Park 217 in Tigard.
CNN. Closed captioning for selected programs provided by the Invention Submission Corporation.
Inventors. Invention Submission Corporation can help you try to patent your idea and submit it to companies.
Call 1-888-778-IDEA for free information.
Welcome back to Crossfire, coming to you live from the George Washington University, and we come to one of our favorite parts of the program. It's called Fireback, and we'll look at the board and see what people have got to say here. All right. Harry Truman had a sign on his desk reading, "The buck stops here." It has been replaced by a sign reading, "Just blame Bill." Kenneth Lee, Raytown University. Yeah, I don't think I ought to blame Bill. I think you'd think these guys inherit a $5.6 trillion surplus, but you got to say one thing about President Bush. That's one thing he can do, is inherit. Very well.
You know what?
An expert at that.
I can't even begin to address it. EJ from Irving, Texas writes in about the show we did last night on women being allowed into Augusta National Golf Club. As a woman, she writes, I find it very amusing that any woman who has enough money to join Augusta could possibly feel that society has oppressed her. I feel that there are much more important issues in society than bothering a group of decent, law-abiding men. EJ, as a woman, I agree with you.
Oh, yeah. Maybe she's like President Bush. She inherited everything. Huh? You don't know that.
What are you talking about? There are women who
inherited just like inherited. Sure,
what a sexist statement.
I said maybe they did. I didn't say they did. I said maybe they did.
Okay.
But maybe women... It's gone way too far. It seems totally inappropriate to invite somebody, a TV contest winner, to sing at September 11th ceremonies. You might as well invite the Survivor winners, guest of Temptation Island, and the girl who wants to marry a millionaire to all perform. Debbie, Lawton, Oklahoma. Actually, Debbie, I agree with you, but I thought that Bo Rocca was a great guest.
He was.
But you're right. You're right.
Next up,
the most is wrong.
Sherry from Vancouver, British Columbia writes, the notion of having the American Idol finalists play at the September 11th ceremony is sickening. Quite honestly, the American Idol show itself is a ridiculous waste of time and gives me yet another reason why I am proud to be Canadian. We would never support that kind of trash. Well, Sherry, we did a little checking, and it turns out William Shatner, Alex Trebek, Rick Moranis, and Pamela Anderson Lee, American? No, Canadian.
What's wrong with Alex Trebek? I like it. It's a great show, man. I put attacking Canada.
We have a question from the audience. Yes, sir.
Hi, this question is for either Tucker or James. If the Clinton legacy is so hurtful, then why has Crossfire's ratings gone up so much when it features two former Clinton advisors?
Actually, they go down. It's more a public service. These guys tried to run for office, but being connected to the Clintons, they failed.
Well, I think that, the country knows what happened under Clinton, and they know how well we did, and they know that the deficit went down, and they're great for it. From the left, I'm James Carville. Good night, Crossfire.
From the right, I'm Tucker Carlson. Join us again tomorrow night, Thursday night, for another edition of Crossfire. Connie Chung tonight begins immediately after CNN News Alert. Have a great night. See you tomorrow.
Good evening. I'm Frederica Whitfield in Atlanta here. The story's making headlines this hour. During a meeting with Capitol Hill lawmakers today, President Bush made his case for ousting Iraqi President Saddam Hussein. In turn, House and Senate leaders said a vote endorsing U.S. action could come as early as next month. The Bush administration says Iraq has been stockpiling weapons of mass destruction. Ex-WorldCom Chief Financial Officer Scott Sullivan and one of his colleagues have pleaded not guilty to federal fraud charges. Sullivan and former General Accounting Director Buford Yates were arraigned in New York today. They are accused of helping the bankrupt company hide more than $5 billion in expenses. If convicted, each could serve 25 years in prison and be fined millions. Firefighters in Southern California are hoping the weather will soon be their ally as they battle a pair of wildfires outside Los Angeles. Besides burning more than 20,000 acres, the two fires have destroyed dozens of buildings, including 4 homes. Many horses and other animals were also threatened, but volunteers helped relocate them to safer ground. I'm Frederica Whitfield in Atlanta. Connie Chung Tonight starts right now.
Good evening. I'm Connie Chung. Tonight, the face of an angel in the witness chair for the murder of his father.
Rick said that he loved me.
Courtroom drama. A teenager charged with killing his father takes the stand in his own defense.
And he said that my dad was dead. He said that he had killed my dad to protect us.
Tonight, a 13-year-old defendant points the finger. What he saw the night his dad, Terry King, was killed. Surrounded by raging wildfires, a California woman was ready to take her own life rather than lose it in the inferno.
She was standing out there very, very scared, sweating and didn't know, very confused.
Tonight, the woman who lived to tell a story of horror and the 2 men who saved her life. Dr. Stephen Hatfill, the man the FBI calls a person of interest in the anthrax attacks, fired from his university position.
And we are confident that we've acted objectively and thoughtfully and fairly in this matter.
Tonight, Hatfill's side of the story.
And I love my country.
Conjoined twins from Middle America undergo hours of surgery. Tonight, a first-person account from their parents and the doctor who performed the operation. This is Connie Chung Tonight, live from the CNN Broadcast Center in New York. Connie Chung.
Good evening. Tonight, an extraordinary sight in Pensacola, Florida. A 13-year-old boy, Alex King, on the stand in a murder trial, defending himself against charges that he and his brother killed their father, Terry King. If convicted, the boys will spend the rest of their lives in prison. It's a bizarre case. Boys appearing to be clean-cut, well-behaved, but charged with a brutal crime. Equally as bizarre, this is the second trial in the murder of the father, Terry King. In the first trial, prosecutors tried someone else for the murder. The verdict is being kept secret. But in a virtually unprecedented move, prosecutors have, in effect, decided to try the case twice and see if anything sticks. CNN's David Mattingly is on the story of today's extraordinary testimony by 13-year-old Alex King.
Based on looks alone, the possibility that these young brothers with choir boy faces could plot and murder their own father might seem inconceivable. Yet Derek and Alex King are on trial for doing just that last November in Escambia County, Florida. And in court Wednesday, the boys' own words, confessions taped by police shortly after the murder, played for the jury.
I hit him once and I heard him moan, and then I was afraid that he might wake up and see us, so I just kept on hitting him.
At the time, just 13, it was older brother Derek saying he struck the killing blows. Little brother Alex, 12 at the time, said it was he who came up with the idea and watched his brother carry it out. But on the stand, in a 180-degree turn, Alex now says the killer was family friend Ricky Chavez. Alex testified the night of the murder, Chavez entered their bedroom and had the boys hide in the trunk of his car before taking them secretly to stay at his home.
He said that there had been a fight between my dad and my dad, and he said that my dad was dead.
Alex told the court Chavez coached the boys on details of the crime and convinced them into taking the blame, thinking that as juveniles, they would not go to prison.
I upset, crying, I was angry, kind of angry at him. But he kept saying, like, he loved me and that he'd done it for me.
Alex also giving details into a sexual and what he described as a deeply emotional relationship he claims to have had with Chavez, a convicted child molester. Testifying, Chavez told him he killed the father so the two could be together.
He was saying that he had done it for us. He said my dad would never have let us live with him. He'd never let us go.
But with two compelling versions of a brutal murder, a grand jury compelled prosecutors to try Chavez and the brothers for the same murder, with two separate juries in two separate trials. Chavez maintained his innocence in his murder trial last week as the boys provided key testimony.
What to say to the police as far as what you killed your father with?
A bat.
The jury in the Chavez trial reached its verdict last week. That verdict, however, is sealed and won't be revealed until a new jury decides the fate of Derek and Alex. Beyond the shocking nature of this crime, the case has become a legal sensation. Two distinct stories, two separate trials, two juries, whose verdicts could fail to agree on who is the true killer. David Mattingly, CNN.
Joining me once more to make some sense out of this trial is CNN legal analyst Jeffrey Toobin. Jeffrey, David
I'll try.
Yes, okay. David Mattingly put it so well. Choir boys. I mean, this little boy, Alex King, is 13. He looks 8.
He looks 8. It's incredible. And he's just, and his story is told in this sort of weird, tragic deadpan that, again, you don't know whether he's been coached. And,
yes.
you know, and what does it mean
emotion.
for a 13-year-old to tell the truth or not tell the truth about something so emotionally traumatic, on top of which he has this bizarre, horrible sexual relationship with Chavez, who, you know, may have done it himself.
Yes, I don't know. I watch it, and I hear him saying, yes, sir, yes, ma'am, no, ma'am, you know, so polite, and yet I can't imagine that they've been accused of such a horrible murder. But let me just show you, we want to look at one clip in which Alex King is talking about his father.
Did you think things were that bad between your father and you?
No, I thought they were pretty good. I love my dad, and we spent a lot of time together, and we had a lot of fun.
Tell the jury some of the things you would do with your father.
Well, we were working on the yard and stuff, and we would do yard work together. That was fun, planting flower beds and things.
If I were a juror, I'd be saying, do I believe him?
You know, he's obviously got a big motive to lie here. I mean, you have to evaluate him to a certain extent like an ordinary defendant, because after all, he is the defendant here. And, you know, it's of course in his interest to say, well, I love my father. I didn't have any problem with him. In Alex's defense, you know, there had not been extensive reports of child abuse. This was not a situation where, you know, he had a history of abuse. I mean, he's referred to often as a disciplinarian, but he was not certainly had never been charged with any sort of child abuse. So it may simply be true that they had a reasonably okay relationship.
All right, you brought up this alleged sexual relationship with the man who was accused of this murder as well and was already tried. His name is Rick Chavez. You know, I can only think that the defense is putting all of this information forward to create some sympathy because this boy was just sort of wrapped up in this relationship.
Well, it's no doubt true that that's why they're putting it forward. They may also be putting it forward because it's true. And he obviously was involved with the family in some way. And Chavez is a convicted child molester. There's no dispute about that. So this is not just some sort of nice, kindly friend of the family. I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I actually I meant to throw to another clip, and then we'll come back and you can continue, all right?
Remember when was the first time that Rick Chavez kissed you?
Yes, ma'am.
When was that? Do you remember? Was that before Derek came back?
Yes, ma'am.
But before he kissed you, had he told you some other things like it's normal for men and boys to kiss?
Yes, ma'am. He said that it was a normal thing. And he told me about real relationships he had.
He said he had had relationships with some other boys?
Yes, ma'am.
And he told you everybody wants to try this, so there's nothing wrong with it?
Well, he said that it was a natural curiosity, but not necessarily everybody, but he said that it was a natural curiosity.
Just breaks my heart.
It's awful. I mean, you don't know how to react to that peculiar deadpan also, because he's obviously being led through this story. He's not really telling the story. The lawyer is telling the story. And so some jurors may say, oh, it didn't really happen. She's just putting the words in his mouth. But how is a 13-year-old supposed to tell a story like this? I just don't know. I mean, it's such a subjective reaction on the part of listeners and jurors that I wouldn't even begin to imagine how people will react.
All right, we have another clip in which Alex describes Rick Chavez confessing. So let's listen to this.
What happened once you got inside Rick's house?
He told us that there had been, he said that there had been a fight between my dad and my dad, and he said that my dad was dead. He said that he had killed my dad to protect us. And, like, he had pulled me aside, like, into his bedroom, like, had told me that there was a fight between him and my dad. Like, he was saying how bad it was, saying it was terrible. And he was saying that he had done it for us. He said my dad would never have let us live with him. He'd never let us go. He'd said my dad would have killed us before he'd let us go.
Now, the story he's telling on the stand is completely different from the one that his brother told in confessing, although he recanted later, confessing to the crime.
And he confessed too. I mean, they had both confessed. That's, of course, the great problem for the defense in this case, that jurors tend to believe confessions. Jurors, the prisons are full of people who confess, but, as recent research has disclosed, confessions don't always mean they're guilty. Last week there was that famous case in Michigan where the DNA proved that a guy who had confessed, was obviously not guilty. I mean, it does happen, but it's a big mountain for the defense to get around.
Let me ask you, is this a big problem? And that is, Derek, in his confession, apparently gave details of what his father looked like after he hit him, and, gory to say the least details, but how would he know?
Well, how would he know if he hadn't been there? Exactly right. A big problem for the defense. Puts them all, it lets the jury put the pieces together in the way that the prosecution wants. You just never know how jurors are going to respond to children on the witness stand. I mean, that is, you can have them throw them all out altogether, but it's certainly a problem. The best thing the prosecution may have going for it is certain corroborating evidence that they have. They have evidence that on the soles of the kid's shoes was the kind of paint thinner, although this is somewhat disputed, that was used to start the fire. There was also an arson after the murder. That's the kind of corroborating evidence they may hang their hat on.
But don't the boys have an explanation for that?
They have an explanation that they were actually helping their father do some real painting, and that's how the thinner got on their shoes.
All right. This is something that the boys had mentioned, and that was that they say that Chavez killed their father because he was trying to protect them. So we have a clip.
He was saying that he couldn't go to jail because of the promise he made his mother, and he said that he had done it for us and he'd done it to protect us. And he was saying that if we took the blame tonight, we would get off on self-defense because we were juveniles. And he was saying that we could say that Derek had done it because he was stronger and stuff, and to believe that we get off on self-defense.
Well, but they're being tried as adults.
The irony here is that, that might be understandable. That might be a believable claim to most people, because I think most people couldn't think that a